Hello and welcome to Angular Air. This episode is sponsored by Angular Class. If you're looking to learn the latest and greatest in modern web development techniques, or you need Angular 2 training, then sign up today at angularclass.com. On our panel today, we have the one and only great Olivier Cohn.
Hello.
And joining us on mute, because he's on a side conference of some sort, is Patrick Stapleton.
Hi guys.
Also his birthday, so happy birthday, Patrick.
Yeah, thanks.
Just a couple quick announcements. If you have any questions during the show, make sure you tweet with the hashtag NGAIR, N-G-A-I-R. Our upcoming shows will be next week. We're going to be on location at Robin, the company Robin, with Zach Dunn and Atticus White talking about the Internet of Things with Angular 2. And then February 18th, we're going to be another live show from NGNL. A number of people, including actually some of the people on the show today and others, will be on that show. So we're really looking forward to that. For today, we're going to be talking about a really interesting topic, something that I think all of us listening to the show have to deal with on both ends, learning Angular and then teaching it to others. And for that topic, we have two of the best in the business, Pascal Precht.
Hello there.
And Christoph Bergdorf.
Hi there.
So first off, guys, for people that might not know who you are, you want to give a kind of introduction to yourself and what you guys do?
Yeah, sure. So, my name is Pascal. I'm a software engineer and trainer at ThoughtRam, and I do Angular since a lot of years now. So I was joining the Angular community when it was 0 dot something. And I also moved on to Angular 2, so I'm doing a lot of stuff there. I thought we'd do trainings on Angular, which is why we're here at this Angular Air episode today. And I also write a lot of articles on Angular 2 and hope that someone out there finds these articles useful or something, which kind of, it seemed to work out somehow.
What about you, Christoph?
Hello. So I'm Christoph, and I'm running this. I'm the second part of ThoughtRam, so I'm running this company with Pascal. Also doing Angular stuff. Been doing it since 2010 or so, I think, and now jumped on to Angular 2, and also helping out with the documentation of Angular 2. And beside Angular stuff, I'm a language nerd. I love learning other languages and looking at new stuff like languages like Rust and other interesting stuff. Yeah.
Now, I thought it was interesting before the show, you guys were starting to talk about some of the origins of ThoughtRam. Pascal, could you kind of relay like the shortened version of that, of how the company came about?
Totally. It all started very romantically. At a candlelight dinner in a sushi bar with Christoph. No, so actually, Christoph started here in Hanover, Germany, the JS user group, the Hanover JS user group. So that was his first effort on doing some community work here. During that time, I was actually not living here. I came from somewhere else, and I saw that event, and I asked him to join there and maybe even give a talk. And so I came to Hanover. I gave a talk at this event, and we became friends. And then at some point, I moved here. I gave some more talks, and every now and then, Christoph basically said, maybe someday we can even do something like workshops or something, like something that goes beyond those meetups. And we always said, yeah, we can do that someday, but we never really came together on that one, and we both had our jobs, and so it was something that we've always wanted to do, like years ago, but we never really started on that one. And then last year, or actually the day before, the year before that year, we actually at some day we sat together when we had lunch, and we talked about that, and we said, you know, we can try that out. Let's just start with something. Let's do some workshop on. Let's start with Git. You know, we do trainings in Git as well, and that's basically what we started off with. And so yeah, we then talked about it, like how do we want to start, if there's even interest at all or not. And then we basically reached out to GitHub and we asked them if they would be interested in sponsoring such a training, and then at some point we basically made our first training with like 7 attendees, and that was already huge here in Hanover. And that was just Git, but we knew that at some point we also wanted to do Angular trainings, because back in those days we already did some Angular work, and it took us, I don't know, about, let's say, 3 months or so until we actually announced officially that we're doing Angular training. So the thing is that we both had a full-time job, and we were doing that thing next to our full-time job, and it was actually just a project. We didn't even think about making an actual company and starting to actually, you know, making money with it and live from it. We just, you know, wanted to do something that goes beyond meetups, and it just turned out to work out somehow. And the fact that you can actually earn money with it is a nice side effect. So, and after we announced that we'll do Angular trainings, we basically got tons of requests, and we had a lot of trainings settled, and then we also had to decide at some point what we want to do, because we spent a lot of time working on our material. We had to take holidays to actually do workshops because we had that full-time job, and that was sort of the start of ThoughtRam.
How did you come up with the name?
Oh, the name. That's interesting. So, it was actually, I think we were just kind of brainstorming, and we both knew it has to have something to do with like teaching, like something that is somehow related to teaching or to.
And you're like ramming it down people's throats. Was that the sort of idea?
This is very funny, because that's what a lot of people think, and that was not our original intention on that one. So
we should look up the original. We should look up the ticket. There's actually a GitHub ticket that reads "Find a nice company name." So we were iterating through all this on GitHub actually, and so yeah, this RAM thing. Many people think it is about a RAM block that you hammer something into people. That's totally not our intention. So it was really inspired from the memory and having, I don't know, like having thoughts in memory or something like that, and it kind of sounded cool, and it also made for a nice logo. So yeah, we set up with that.
I think it's also nice that it kind of, this is just what we thought. That was basically our idea about that, but there is, as you can see, obviously, there's room for interpretation. So people really come up with different ideas on what this name could mean, or what is the idea behind that name, and we actually like that. We had a different idea originally, but people, they interpret it differently, and that's actually cool.
I actually thought that
all the good names were taken.
Yeah, I thought that it was the contraction of thought and tram, like the train of thoughts, but
no, I'm sorry, it's not that.
Okay. So let's talk about your overall philosophy about teaching. You told us why you decided to teach, but what is your approach to teaching? how do you aboard a new subject and try to find a way to teach it to new people, to people who are new to this subject?
So yeah, we actually this is something that we also think through quite a lot. Like we especially now that we are preparing material for Angular 2, we are actually constantly discussing like which would be the right order to make people learn things, and this is often a ping pong game between Pascal and me, and we try to find the things that we think are important for people to actually get up to speed to build applications, because obviously we can't cover everything right from the start, and the situation with Angular 2 now is totally different from the situation with Angular 1, where Pascal and I have like years of experience with Angular 1. Of us has years of experience with Angular 2, and I mean, like, even the core team is in a way are beginners with Angular 2. So yeah, we try to find the things that are most important, and then find good ways to teach them. And our approach is to do a lot of hands-on with the audience. So we kind of iterate through theoretical we teach them with slides, concepts in Angular 2, and then show them a little bit directly in a live Planck how things work, and then have people do it themselves, yeah, to start applying their new knowledge in exercises. And this is also what keeps the shop quite lively. So you don't sit there and just stare at us and hang on our lips forever, and this would make people totally fall asleep. So yeah, we iterate through this theoretical and live part with them. Maybe Pascal, you want to add some of your own opinions about that?
Well, I think that was already my opinion, because my opinions are yours. I think the only thing I can add is that so we have this general this general requirement that we want to make sure that the way we deliver our content is high quality, and also the content itself has to be high quality. Like we want to always deliver high quality content. That doesn't mean it has to be like the best of the best. It means that we give you what we can give you, whatever that means. But the stuff that you get from us, that should be high quality and considering best practices and everything. And that's also especially why we put a lot of time, like tons of time, into figuring out what works best when it comes to teaching. So as Christoph said, we have those theoretical sessions, and then we have some interactive sessions where people ask questions, and then we show some demos, and then these kind of things, and then they do these exercises. And you can totally just do that, but it turned out that there's actually a lot more that comes into play. You have to consider, things like how deep do you actually want to go into like a certain topic. You want to, at some point, you want to deliver something that is at some point also more advanced. Like the training that we do, we call it masterclass. We have the Angular masterclass. We have the Angular 2 masterclass. Not to confuse with Angular class, although they're probably master too. But we also have to decide what is the like how deep can we go that we actually do some advanced stuff without going too deep and spending too much time on it, so that we can't actually cover other topics. you wanna cover a lot of stuff during a certain amount of time. You want to show them advanced things, but it always comes with a cost. You either go super deep, or you go, you show super, like, as many topics as possible, but then only on a high level. And it's hard to find out what works best and what actually makes sense to the user, especially considering the amount of time that you have available. Like when it's a 2-day class, those variables are totally different. If you have a 1-day, like a single-day class, then they're, again, different. Like, it really depends on so many things, what you want to do, what time you have, how the content is kind of put together. And I think we really spend a lot of time and energy on that, and especially with the Angular 2 masterclass, like the new edition, it was even more work and more thoughts that we had to put together. And we're actually trying out something new in the Angular 2 masterclass. We're trying out a different format, and it turned out to be actually to work out quite well.
What's this new format?
Sorry, what? Can you repeat that?
What is this new format?
So generally, what we did at the Angular masterclass is that we have basically slide decks for different topics. Like each topic is like a certain module, and then we go through this cycle of theoretical session, and then interaction, and then exercise. But it turned out, for example, that when you cover different topics, you can prepare exercises for it, and then let the people do those exercises. But when you make it in some way, those exercises are always somehow isolated. Like you have a certain, let's say you have a topic promises, you can totally prepare something on promises, and then you can prepare exercises on the topic whatever, creating services, whatever, and then this works. But of course, it would be way nicer if people would actually build an entire application throughout a training, which is something that we wanted to do at the first place. But then it turned out that it's actually not easy to find out what application you can build that will actually cover all these use cases that you want to do in your exercises. It turned out that this doesn't work out. Like we tried a lot of things, and you have no idea. We went back and forth, and then so we decided to just do isolated exercises. And some people say, actually a lot of people said that after our training, they really liked it, that they had these isolated small exercises. But then, of course, you also have people that say, yeah, actually, I would like to have this kind of big picture. I want to see how all these things fit together when you build an entire application. And so it's super hard to actually satisfy everyone perfectly. In the Angular 2 masterclass, again, we sat down and then we thought about it, and we decided to try it out in a way, like we do it differently. We try out both worlds. On one hand, we do this tutorial kind of thing, which is you build an application at the first day, and at the second day, we go deep into certain topics. So the first day already touches on a lot of topics, and then the second day kind of deepens those topics. And it feels fresh. It's something different. It comes also with a different setups with our repositories and how we manage branches and these kind of things. But yeah, currently it seems to work, and it also scales, and that seems to be a good thing because there's tons of stuff to cover for Angular 2.
One thing I'm curious about, so it seems like you guys try to make adjustments based off of the given situation, how much time you have and what your class consistency is made of. But just from my own experience in trying to teach subjects to different companies and whatnot, like it can be hard. Like you're thrown into these, you don't know the people a lot of times ahead of time, what sort of motivations they have. And I'm curious whether you guys have run into like some difficult situations, like just as an example, someone who just gets frustrated because they're like a COBOL developer, and they're getting their managers telling them to go in and learn Angular, and you're trying to teach him, and he's just pissed that he's there, and he's frustrated he can't learn fast enough. Like I've seen that a lot personally when I've tried to do this type of stuff. So I gotta imagine you guys have run into some things like that.
It's funny that you mentioned it. Actually, we haven't had such people for a long time now, but we used to have them a lot. So we always used to have like at least one guy who was, I don't know, doing Java for all of his life, and I don't know, like being sent from his company, so now he should do all this new fancy web stuff. And JavaScript isn't a proper language anyway, and it's all seems to be such a waste of time. And yeah, we had these people. Yeah, we totally had these people too. But usually it wasn't like a huge distraction. So it turned out quite well. But for me, what was really interesting with all these different people and different workshops is to get to know about all those different contexts in which they apply Angular, and they from a different angle. Like for instance, we've been at a big car maker, and they were interested in using Angular for embedded systems in a car, you know, like for the multimedia things in the car. And they have like totally different questions. They are questioning garbage collection pressure and really like nitty-gritty detailed stuff. So this is something that is for me really exciting to see people applying Angular in lots of different scenarios, and how to best help them. Yeah.
So like, have you guys reached a point where you talk about, where someone joins in the course, and then you start talking about TypeScript, and then you show them classes, and then their eyes light up. They're like, oh, like I know this, right? And then like maybe they'll do an example, and then they start introducing a ton of like OOP like patterns and creating new instance of everything. Have you guys like ran into that person yet?
Not really. So we, in fact, we started using TypeScript in our trainings with the Angular 2 masterclass, and the first one we've done like a couple of days ago in Berlin. And so I can only tell what happened during that training. And so we had, in fact, we had from the around 30 attendees, there were a couple of attendees that actually haven't done any Angular before, and also very, very little front-end development. And so they started off with some sort of TypeScript code that we had in our exercises. And so once we got our feedback after the training, those people actually said that they had a very, very good time following that training and also building that application because of TypeScript, because they are, they came from, from languages like .NET or Java or whatever, and it really is, it's like what you said. It feels familiar to them. It is familiar to them. And then they really had like a great time following that stuff, and it was easy for them to understand things. And on top of that, when you use something like TypeScript, you can take advantage of different tooling. Like you have different editors and IDEs, like Visual Studio Code, for example, turned out to be an editor that does a lot of work for you, and so people were actually really appreciating that that they could do that they don't have to write JavaScript.
I have a two-part questions for you. How many workshops do you do? Is it once a week, once a month? It used to teach the same thing over and over to new people.
So we kind of got a little bit tired about this Angular 1 stuff at some point, so we are super happy that we started now with Angular 2 workshops. I mean, we're still running workshops on Angular 1 if we get asked. We do in-house stuff on Angular 1 for sure, but now our heart also moved on to Angular 2, so we are excited about the new stuff.
I'm actually
so how many work
3 already?
Yeah. So how many workshops do we give? I would say it's we give like maybe 3 workshops per month. So this would be workshops with like normally 2 or a maximum of 3 days per workshop. And we also do other stuff. Yeah, we do stuff like code reviews, and obviously we also want to have time for other things, other open source projects that we work on. As Pascal briefly mentioned when he introduced our story, our main motivation is actually not to get rich. It's to do the stuff that we like, and we love to work on open source and all our pet projects. So it's also something that is for us that also consumes our time.
All right, I want to get into a little bit of some of the specifics for the stuff you teach and learning Angular 1 versus Angular 2. I think most people who are listening are very familiar with Angular 1 and maybe just starting to get into Angular 2. So I thought it would be good to maybe compare and contrast a little bit for some of the different aspects. Starting off with, what did you guys find when you were doing Angular 1 training? What was the hardest thing for people to grok, to get within the framework for new people coming in, versus now with Angular 2? How has that changed? What's the hardest thing that people are having a tough time with?
So with Angular 1, I think the topics that the people mostly struggled with were understanding what providers are, how they work, and why you need them or maybe not. We always explain what providers are, and because we need them at later topics, but at the point we explain them, it's not super obvious why you want to have them.
You mean the whole factory service provider thing?
Well, not those higher level APIs. But really creating a provider. I mean, like a factory and a service also creates a provider under the hood, but you can actually build your own provider with its own APIs, and sometimes you need it, and mostly actually, most of the time you don't need it. But it's important, in my opinion at least, it's important to understand what providers are, what they do, and what role they play in this dependency injection system. So so you can take advantage of things like route provider and HTTP provider and these kind of things. So that's one thing. The other thing is clearly directives, but not just building simple directives like template directives or some attribute directives. Where people really start to struggle with is when it comes to directive communication using directive controllers. This is also pretty much the last exercise in our Angular masterclass, where people have to build something where directives communicate. And I think sometimes it's pretty much in their face at the point when we explain it. So that turned out to be like a very, very tricky one. As for Angular 2, I don't know, Christoph, you want to take on that one?
Actually, I wanted to expand that, for directives in Angular 1, especially. I think that people had tons of different options. I mean, if you just look at the directive definition object, it can totally scare people away. And then you have all these different kind of hooks, like pre-link and post-link and controller. And actually, should we use controller in favor of link? But then there's this situation where you can't use controller and you have to reach for link. And like this kind of stuff is just heavy for newcomers to understand, and so I think this got much easier with Angular 2. With Angular 2, I mean, obviously we are just in the beginning here, also in the beginning of getting feedback from our audience. I think one topic that still remains to be tricky to understand for many people is the role of dependency injection. So, for instance, there are always people wondering, why do we need DI at all if I can just write my import statement? So if I'm already importing the thing, why do I need DI? Why do I need to feed something to Bootstrap and all this? So this seems to be quite tricky to understand the difference of importing a type and actually getting instances and having something that manages instances for us. And I think another topic that turns out to be such a mind shift, even for me when I'm like preparing exercises, is like thinking in components. Thinking in components is like a totally different beast from Angular 1, where you could just have your template and have your free template and attach a controller, and you were like more free, and you totally have to think a little bit different in Angular 2. So I think those two things are actually like most challenging that I see for now.
I would like to add that there's another topic that somehow, like, sometimes it doesn't super intuitive. The new component router, it is, the router is still in a sort of, in a phase where it's still a little bit redesigned. So like most of the APIs are probably not stable yet. So this is probably going to hopefully better and not worse. But due to the fact that Angular 2 is entirely component based and that you always build up a component tree, the whole idea of routing and how routing works is also super different. Like, you define routes at a certain component for its child components, and it's not easy to just say, I have this child component right here, and it introduces some new routes to the entire application. It somehow, it works in some way, but it's not the way you probably would expect it to be. So yeah, I think this is also something where people have to start just kind of taking it as it is, and then later on exploring why the things are the way they are. I think I could also move on with observables as a new API abstraction that might add some new complexity to the table to some scenarios, but yeah, there are many things. So yeah.
Well, it's interesting with some of the things you brought up. It seems like when you are creating an application, there is sort of a difference in your reaction to how a framework, how difficult it is to learn based off of like what you're trying to do. I feel like sometimes if you are doing like a simple application and sometimes you don't need routing, sometimes you don't need to create custom directives and that type of thing. I've always felt that like Angular 1 is really good with that, right? Because like you don't have to know all that stuff, and yeah, you might have some performance issues if you like tried to like scale it out, but it's a lot easier to get started. Whereas like with Angular 2, you do have to like, it seems like learn a little bit more up front, but then it's easier to scale later. Have you guys like found that same type of thing?
I'm under the impression that in Angular 2, the basics are really smaller than in Angular 1, and the options of advanced stuff, such as triggering detection and stuff like that, are really harder in Angular 2 than in Angular 1, because you have the options to do that. I don't know.
So I wouldn't say that it's necessarily more hard, like more difficult to do, or it's so APIs in Angular 2 are just different, right? So concepts are more or less the same. Like there are new concepts, but there are also some old concepts. But there are tons of new APIs that you have to learn. I think that's like the thing that adds the complexity. You don't need all those APIs always. You can actually most of the time just start off with like a super duper subset of all of these APIs. But I actually think that especially when it comes to more advanced things, whatever advanced means in that case, but for example, asking for the change detector and then manually disable it for a component and then re-enable it again, like these kind of things, that sort of, it feels actually way easier. I don't even think there's an option to do that really in Angular 1, but Angular 2 is just different. There are different ideas that actually enable new things that, I don't know. I wouldn't say they're more complex necessarily, but they're new. You have to learn them.
So how do you teach NG4? Because like whenever I do that, there's like 5 concepts that to go over, and then whenever they introduce like the semicolon for index, then it's like, oh, now you have 20 concepts to go over. Like, how do you go about? Do you just give them like something? Do you just give like a brief overview? It's like, oh yeah, it just works magic. Just deal with magic, or how far deep do you go with that?
So okay, I can take this one. Or Christoph, do you want
to? Yeah, sorry, it was the sound was just jittering, so I didn't get the rest, but I got the beginning. So so how do we teach NG4? So it's a question that we also iterated over, and we settled with that we first day we would just show them the minimal behind the scenes magic that they need to know to actually work with it. So we show them the syntax. We tell them that the asterisk is a sign that this is a directive that makes structural changes, and that this is actually a shorter syntax, a shorthand syntax that translates into different syntax, and we show those concepts, tell them a little bit the story behind this, and but we don't want to distract while they are building their very first application, because on the first day we are building up a simple application in, I think, 10 or 11 steps. I think 11 steps. And at each step, we just try to teach them enough to actually get forward and not get distracted. And then on the second day, we would have a session that goes more into all the syntax things. So the same goes with the bracket syntax, for instance. We do teach them that we are writing to properties and how this is a good thing and enables to work with web components and the difference between attributes and properties. But we try to keep it focused so that they don't get distracted for the actual task of going forward with this demo application that they are building on the first day.
Okay, and just jump into a slightly different area. One of the other things, you guys are involved in a lot more than just training, like you had mentioned earlier in the show. You guys write blog posts. they're actually really great blog posts, I might add. Speak at conferences, contribute to Angular core. So how do you kind of how do you do it all? Like, how do you manage? What does your week look like in terms of like how you balance all of those different things?
That's actually a good question because, in fact, this has changed since the beginning of 2016, at least for me. So I think the last couple of months in 2015, I kind of turned into something like a like a workaholic. I worked on stuff during the day, and at night I wrote some articles, and then I did this, and then I did that, and it's since we're doing ThoughtRam full time, we actually have time for this because we don't have another full-time job. We can just do whatever we like to do as long as we somehow get some money that we can live from it. It's all right. So we work on the Angular 2 documentation with some other folks, and it's not that we have to, that we're working on this 9 to 5. But we kind of reserve some time in the week for working on that, and then probably each of us is getting the task of writing a new chapter. And then actually we are super free how we want to expand on that. Like if we want to work 3, 4, 5 days on that, then we can totally do that. It really depends on what we have to do. Like maybe we have to run another training or whatever. Then we obviously don't have time for that. But other than that, writing articles is something that, for me personally at least, something that always works. Like when there's a topic that I'm excited about to learn, then I dive into that topic, and then I want to write down my learnings, and hopefully that someone else out there finds it useful as well. And it often takes, in fact, a couple of hours to write such an article, like 4 or 5 hours. But usually that's something I personally at least can always do. Like I can start with that at 10 at night and then continue working on that until it's done, and I'm not exhausted then or anything. It's fun to do that. And speaking at conferences, preparing talks. Sure, when you have to prepare a new talk, then you have to take time to prepare it. And currently, I'm actually, in fact, in that kind of situation, because in 2 weeks there's NGNL, and I'm giving a talk on change detection Angular 2, and I have to prepare that talk. So I'm reading a lot of source code currently, a lot of tests, and trying to put my slides together, and doing that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's what it looks like for me at least.
How is it for you guys to be what we can call digital nomads? You move a lot from countries to countries to do the workshops, to do the conference, and how is it hard for you? How do you live with it?
Speaking for myself, I totally love it. So this is something that I think we are like in this whole industry. Yeah, we are like super privileged to actually be able to even do that. Yeah, I mean, we are not like we don't need like super big machines in some kind of hall that we need to work on. Yeah, and so the fact that we just need our laptop and the internet connection to work. I've been longing to enable like traveling more since I started working in this field, and now with ThoughtRam we actually really have the opportunity to do this. Yeah, and currently we have an extreme amount of traveling. It's usually shorter trips. So we often yeah, just stay at some place for 3 or 4 days maybe. But yeah, we can like we can actually mix up holidays and work. Yeah, like I think in 2 weeks I'm going to Amsterdam for NGNL, and I'm actually expanding for 5 days of holidays. So I rented a houseboat in the canals of Amsterdam, which are beautiful. So, and yeah, obviously we can work from there. We can work on our material, the exercises, the slide decks, prepare
That's awesome.
conference talk.
You guys are clearly not like married or have kids or whatever, right?
I totally have a kid. Yeah.
Oh wow.
This is yeah. I know. So my private background is actually that I'm a separated father. So I have my child. I have a daughter of 3.5 years, and actually I have her like 50% of the time. So this is why we do lots of short trips. So it's often for me that I'm actually heading right from the airport to the kindergarten to get my daughter. So this can be stressful, yeah. But on the other hand, I mean, it enables such a adventurous life for me. So yeah, it's okay. And I also love to travel a lot with my daughter actually. So yeah, for me that's a totally positive side effect of this ThoughtRam thing.
What about you, Pascal?
I like to travel. I like to travel a lot. Although the less time you can spend in a country or in a certain city, the less nice it is. So it's always better if we can spend more time at a certain place. But yeah, it doesn't always work out. But in general, we can do what we want to do. Like we want to see the world. We want to meet a lot of new and different people. We want to work with them. And I mean, I don't know. We made so many friends with what we're doing. Like I mean, I know you, Olivier. I met you like 2 years ago or something. And there are like so many other people out there. That we only met because of what we're doing, and they're always super helpful, and that's actually like the biggest value, right after seeing so many different places, like all these nice people that you get in touch with. So I enjoy it.
Yeah, seeing the pictures of Thailand on your Facebook really makes it worse, I think.
Right.
Yeah, that was totally fun. We ran this workshop in Bangkok, and this was actually it was a free training day. So it was 1 day of training, free for everyone, and it was so exciting to see like all those different peoples. Like we had people from the United Nations in our workshop, which is like
Wow.
super cool, I think. Seeing like again, like seeing where Angular stuff is actually applied in real world, and yeah, then working with all those peoples, and yeah, again, we actually I think at around that time in Thailand we actually really made like real holiday. We didn't really work much on stuff when we were in Thailand, but I've been in Thailand before, actually in the same year before, because my brother lives in Thailand, so I've been there more often. And I remember that, for instance, I was commuting at a long bus commute, and I was preparing a conference workshop while in the bus, and I didn't need internet connection for that, so I had it all in my mind, and you can just use the time and prepare some stuff. So that's really nice in our industry.
I have a couple of questions, but I think I'm gonna just ask one. How long did it take for Sostram to be able to pay for both of your full time?
So technically, so I think at this particular point of time, I'm actually the only one that is getting paid. You know, we're really not super rich. There's not like tons of money. There's enough that that I can get some money to live, and we actually have to change that now. So Christoph can live too. So I don't know. It took us around a year or something. You know, right on time when we started full time. I don't know, Christoph, if you wanna.
Yeah, so it's funny because like people people are following ThoughtRam maybe for longer now, but I mean, like we started in 2014 to actually do our first workshops and blog and all this kind of stuff. But as Pascal said, we actually dropped out of our full-time jobs in 2015 in September. So until then, we were actually having our full-time jobs and close to full salaries, because at some point in somewhere in spring in 2015, we actually they lowered our salary a little bit so that we could have more time to work on ThoughtRam. But yeah, we still had our salaries, and then actually we started to pay for Pascal when in September last year, and I still had I still had different money, so I'm actually getting my first salary next month, so which is quite a milestone.
That's pretty awesome. You guys are doing it for the love of the game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, this will be like actually like money-wise, 2016 will be probably more interesting for ourselves, because we are actually not able at this point to exactly tell you how it will all turn out. But somewhere in 2016, ThoughtRam actually has to pay for both of us, and we will then see how this turns out. But I think actually it will turn out quite okay.
I don't know about you, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Yeah, me too.
I'm praying each day before I go to bed.
Yeah. Let there be workshops. Let there be workshops.
You guys can see, they're watching on YouTube right now. You can see behind me the We Works on Do What You Love. I think that sort of signifies you guys very well, and from what I'm hearing.
Pretty much.
So.
Yeah.
We're getting near the end of our time. I have two quick questions, one for each of you guys, and then we're going to shoot through the Twitter questions as well, and sort of a quick fire round here. So for each of you guys, first, actually, Pascal, with you, there was a discussion thread that you, myself, and Mayor Christensen had a couple weeks ago, and I would be interested in getting your kind of like a quick thought from you on basically DI and functional programming. Basically, Merrick who used to be the biggest DI fan around, was basically saying that now that he's like full functional programming, that he doesn't see the need for DI, which the values being like testability and that type of thing. What are your thoughts for people that might think that way, of like that if you do pure functional programming, there's no need for DI?
Yeah, so I think once, when we had this discussion on Twitter, and I was actually, I think I asked him to give like sort of example what that would look like, when like how do you do testing without DI then? And I didn't think there was an answer on that one, so I read on, I think it was the React documentation or something, and I'm totally new to this topic, like I'm not into functional programming at all. I saw some talks also on Redux and these kind of things to like get a bit of idea of how that works, and it kind of it made click a little bit, like when these components that you write in React, for example, those are, after all, are just these, more or less these render functions, and you put some stuff in, and you always get the same stuff out when you put the same stuff in. So, so there are in fact no side effects, which made sense to me. But I'm still actually waiting for, like, I want to see what that looks like. Like, how do you write tests without DI? So I think I can understand, or I would definitely not disagree with that. Like, I'm sure it works, and it's probably even the way to go in functional programming, but I'm not super familiar with that. So I would actually be interested to see how that works. Like, if there's anyone out there seeing this right now and you want to show me how you test your components in React, please reach out. I'm super interested in that.
We are going to have a future show that's focused on kind of functional programming. I have that kind of in the works, and this will be one of the topics we talk about there for sure.
Sweet.
Christoph, really quick. So there are, with React, you mentioned React, a lot of people that were working on Angular 1 that kind of moved to React because of some of the new paradigms, which have now been brought into Angular 2 for the most part. Do you think that, based off of what you're seeing with people learning Angular 2 and kind of the developers that you guys work with, that we'll see React developers that switch back, basically? Or do you think that basically now it's just even and people will do whatever is most suited towards them?
I guess so, yeah. I guess there will be at least lots of people from the React community, or also different communities, looking at Angular 2 and paying close attention. So I think the more we see what Angular 2 actually looks like and how it feels like to program with it, people are realizing that this is really a very nice approach, very well thought out. And for instance, I mean, you can totally, like this new observable stuff, and this deeply integrated observable stuff also enables us to apply like this Redux architecture in a way in Angular 2 as well. And maybe we will even create a session in our workshop on that, and then show people how they can actually apply Redux architecture in Angular 2. I find this topic quite fascinating. So yeah, I totally think there will be people coming over from React and also different communities to Angular 2. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, let's jump into the Twitter questions with the last couple of minutes we have here. A bunch of good questions that people have posted. Starting off with, I'm going to paraphrase here something that Jons had posted, that basically he's concerned, like he's a teacher, I guess, and he's concerned about the tooling with Angular 2, that with this new world of JavaScript includes a whole bunch of additional tooling, Webpack, System.js, TypeScript, yada, yada, yada. How would you reassure people, or like, what do you tell people who are concerned about that with learning, Angular 2?
So first of all, I can say I agree. I totally agree, and I think it's like the biggest barrier that we have right now. Like when you want to start with Angular 2, it seems like you have to learn tons of tools first, and I'm actually struggling with that myself. So that's why I focus on how to build things with Angular 2 and how to make things with Angular 2. So I mainly use existing starter kits out there, so I don't actually have to take care of building this whole build pipeline myself. However, as soon as I would build something bigger for production, I probably wanna have my own custom build pipeline. So that would be the point where I would jump into that and try to figure out what would be the best fit. I lately tried Webpack, and I liked it, but I don't know. It's super hard to say. I would currently just focus on learning Angular 2, and then just use one of those starter kits out there, the one that you like the most, and then focus on learning that stuff.
I would also like to add that this is a problem not exclusive to Angular 2. I mean, it's it's like this whole web stack just got so complicated and so many levels of abstractions, like with all those compiled to JS languages that we also want to use for different kind of reasons. So yeah, it's not just Angular 2 that needs a complicated setup. Yeah.
Okay. And then Jürgen van der Moor asks, are some of the challenges with Angular Translate, the challenges with async in Angular Translate, are they easier to solve in Angular 2?
I think that's
I'm not familiar with some of the challenges, so I know you used to
Yeah.
work with Angular Translate, right, Pascal?
Yeah, I think, yeah, a little bit. I'm also not entirely sure what challenges are specifically the ones that he's mentioning right now. But so I think it would be very similar, because in Angular Translate we already use things like promises. We can totally use promises in Angular 2 as well. Although I would rather go with observables, because it's just the better abstraction. More powerful, and yeah, I think if there would be like a version of Angular Translate in Angular 2, and in fact Olivier is working on one, like at least something that goes into that direction, I think there would be rather different challenges, especially when it comes to building an actual third-party library for Angular 2. I think that would be more challenging currently. Instead of trying to solve the same problems with a different framework or different language.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, were you going to say something, Olivia?
No, just that I wrote a basic implementation of Angular Translate in Angular 2, and it took me like, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours. It was really easy to come up with this. And yes, the hard part was working on how to write a library for Angular 2, which is what I'm going to talk at NGNL in 2 weeks. So you can watch that.
Woo, spoiler.
And then next question is, do you teach Angular 1 with TypeScript and components by forbidding the use of $scope as much as possible in order to be NG2 ready?
Yeah, so the first thing we do in the Angular masterclass is, like, one of the first things, at least, is explaining what is the scope, and then immediately tell people to not try to rely on scope, but rather use things like controller as, and then work with that one.
But we don't use TypeScript for our Angular 1 workshop.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what's the current status of the Angular 2 documentation? Yeah, I was actually wondering this the other day too, as I was kind of looking through the docs, that there are some things where it's pretty good, but then there's still a lot of areas where it's kind of blank. So what's the current status there, Pascal?
So there are many things that people are working on right now. So we are working hard on a good strategy for the ES5 version of the documentation, because currently most of the documentation out there is on TypeScript, like most of the examples and everything, which is also why like some people struggle with starting with Angular 2, because there's no ES5 examples actually that they can start right away. So that's one thing. We try to find out a strategy on that one, and then we're also working on like a cookbook kind of thing that has some cookbook guide like guides, like a quick reference, Angular 1 versus Angular 2, and these kind of things. So in fact, there's a lot of stuff happening, but it takes time to get the content right, and yeah, we're on it.
Okay. Last Twitter question is about unit testing. Basically, do you guys actually teach how to unit test, and do you see that people pick that up, or is it more something that like probably happens regardless of what they do in the class, that they just kind of like toss to the side and never use it again?
So with unit testing, the way we do it in our workshop is that we have a dedicated session on that. we were thinking about this quite a lot, and I mean, we would really love to make the whole workshop the way that people write tests first and then implementation and all this kind of stuff. But it turns out that if you try to push too many things at once at people, then it will just hurt the experience. So this is at least what we feel. And so we make testing a dedicated session, and for the rest of these sessions we focus on the we want to teach and try not to distract them with testing. So that's how we handle it.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, we're getting right at the end of the time, so let's get to the picks. Just a really quick reminder that next week we're going to be on site with Zach Dunn and Atticus White from Robin, talking about the Internet of Things with Angular. All right, starting off, Olivier, you want to give us your picks?
Yes, I wanted to remind you guys that the call for paper for ngconf is ending in 10 days. So if you want to submit something, it's time to do it before it's too late.
Did you submit something?
No, I need to do it, which is why I
So it's a reminder to yourself.
Yeah. Also, I have a couple ideas, but I'm still thinking about it. I wanted to say also that Angular Connect is coming back this year in September, and they opened the CFP as well. I really hope that we will see you guys there, because we will be, definitely. But it's in a long time, so we still have time for that. And a quick link about read the source on Angular 2 Web Workers, which is the topic on which Patrick was doing a video just before this show, and I think he left to finish that. So I will give you the link. It looks interesting. I don't know if it is, but it looks like, yeah. That's it.
Cool. I just have two quick picks. First, Patrick just published the Angular Universal pre-renderer. So Patrick and I work on Angular Universal, which is the server rendering library for Angular 2, and we are starting to separate out and build out a number of different packages for different environments, different situations. So one of them, which you will most likely find useful in a number of different situations, is this basically gulp plugin that allows you to crawl through your Angular application and basically generate a bunch of static HTML. So there's different use cases why you would use that, but that is out there available right now, and I'll include a link in the show notes. It's called Angular Universal Pre-Renderer.
Is there documentation for that?
Yeah, there's no documentation. We do have two people that are working on documentation. It's just taken. We're trying to get that in order right now. Eventually, we will get it up on Angular IO and everything, but it takes some time. And then the other pick is a great podcast I listened to the other day called The 20-Minute VC. We're starting to look at investment opportunities, and it's been great listening to that. But one show in particular, one of the more recent ones, with Jeff Siebert, who is a founder of a company called Crashlytics. If you worked on mobile development, you know what Crashlytics is, and is now like second in command at Twitter after the reorg. Like, he's way high up there. Really interesting guy. Highly recommend this podcast for anybody who's kind of the entrepreneurial mindset. The 20-Minute VC. Okay, Pascal, why don't you go next?
Sure. So since Olivier mentioned some conferences, I saw that there is another Angular conference happening in Europe, in Belgium. So there are some very, very nice people organizing that stuff. In fact, they're currently building up a team, like a core team, to organize that conference. And so you should watch out for that one. If you're interested in, I don't know, helping out or I don't know, do whatever. Let me know, and maybe I can. Not maybe. Actually, I can get you in touch with those people.
When is that going to be?
I don't think they have a date set yet, but it'd probably be around, I don't know, November, December or something.
December, yeah.
But yeah, I think we should wait until they actually give an official announcement on that one. I don't want to say anything wrong here. Just keep in mind there is gonna be a conference in Belgium this year, and we can get you in touch with those people if you want to help out in some way. That's my first pick. The second pick is, I hope that's okay. It's a bit of self-advertising.
Are you gonna steal my pick?
Oh, is it the
No,
Düsseldorf thing?
No, that just keep going. I was just making fun.
Okay. So we announced our second Angular 2 masterclass, which is happening at the 8th and until the 9th of March in Düsseldorf in Germany. And we started to sell early bird tickets. So if you want to be part of that great training experience, then join us. That would be awesome. And that's it.
Great. Christoph.
Yeah, so actually, Pascal already said it all. Yeah, I've not much to add there, except that maybe if you want to join us for that workshop, you will experience like totally new material that we actually didn't even start to work on right now. So it's like brand new. You're really the first one to see it. Yeah. Shameless self-advertising, but I don't have anything else to add.
I have a pick for you. At NGNL, I think someone can be a lucky winner for some tickets for your workshop.
Oh yes, you are totally right. I'm not exactly sure how actually
how it works.
Yeah, how it works. I didn't look at it yet, but you surely know how it works, right?
Yeah, sure. So all you have to do is it's not about yourself getting you to the conference. It's about getting someone else to the conference that you feel that person needs to get there because it's a benefit for that person. So everyone out there, you can send a tweet mentioning someone who would you like to have at the conference, or at least nominating to get a free ticket for one of the trainings happening one day before the conference. So you send a tweet with a Twitter handle of that person, plus the NGNL conf handle, plus a hashtag called NGNL free ticket, I think it's called. So that's the way how you can nominate someone else to get a free ticket for a training.
Okay, it's Angular 1, right?
What is Angular 1?
The training, it's on Angular 1 or Angular 2?
No, they're both on Angular 2.
Oh, nice.
Angular 1 is so yesterday.
If someone wants to nominate me.
Well, thanks for coming on, guys. We really enjoyed it. And everyone, tune in next week. Have a great week. See ya.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.